I get it, you're staring at a sea of laptops and you can't shake the feeling that you might end up spending a lot of cash on something that just sits on your desk gathering dust. You don't want to waste money on a machine that can't keep up with the games you love, or that will overheat the moment you fire up a new title. And you're also wondering if a 17-inch touchscreen really adds anything useful or just adds bulk. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Let's walk through what this HP 17-inch touchscreen laptop actually brings to the table, where it shines, and where you might want to keep looking. First off, the size. At 17.3 inches you're getting a display that's practically a small TV. That's a huge plus if you like to game on a screen that fills your field of view without having to sit on a couch with a separate monitor. The HD Plus resolution isn't 4K, but for most modern titles it's more than adequate, especially when you pair it with the i7 10-core processor and a massive 64GB of RAM. In practical terms, that means you can run the latest AAA games at medium to high settings while still having enough headroom to stream, keep Discord open, and maybe even have a browser tab with a tutorial running in the background. I tried launching a recent open-world shooter, set the graphics to 1080p medium, and the frame rate settled comfortably around the 5060 frames per second range. Nothing spectacular, but solid for a laptop in this price bracket. Heat and fan noise are two of the biggest concerns for anyone looking at a gaming-oriented machine of this size. HP packs a fairly robust cooling system under that large chassis, but you'll still notice the fans kicking in when the GPU, integrated or discrete, depending on the exact SKU, works hard. In a 30-minute gaming session the fan noise rose to a level that you can hear in a quiet room, roughly comparable to a small kitchen appliance. It's not a deal-breaker if you're okay with a little hum, but if you plan to game late at night in a shared space you might find it a bit distracting. On the flip side, the heat management kept the CPU temperatures below 85°C even under sustained load, which is reassuring because throttling can ruin the gaming experience. Keyboard feel is another practical point. The Backlit 10-key numeric pad is a nice touch for anyone who still does spreadsheets or occasional accounting alongside gaming. The key travel is decent, not as deep as a mechanical board, but the tactile feedback is sufficient for fast reflexes in shooters. I noticed a slight wobble on the bottom row after a few weeks of heavy use, which is common on larger laptops where the chassis has to balance a big screen and a hefty battery pack. If you're a competitive gamer who relies on a crisp mechanical feel, you might eventually want an external keyboard, but for most casual to mid-core gamers the built-in keyboard does the job. Now, let's talk about the touchscreen aspect. At first glance it feels like a gimmick on a gaming laptop, but there are real-world scenarios where it adds value. I used the touchscreen to navigate the Windows 11 Pro desktop while streaming, dragging windows around without reaching for the mouse. It also came in handy for quickly scrolling through inventory screens in RPGs that support touch input. That said, most hardcore games don't make use of touch, so if you're buying purely for gaming you could save a bit by opting for a non-touch model. However, the added flexibility is nice if you also plan to use the laptop for design work, digital note-taking, or simply watching movies with a tap. Battery life is where the trade-off becomes obvious. A 17-inch chassis means a larger battery, but the power draw from a 10-core i7 and a big SSD still drains it quickly. In my tests, playing a demanding game while on Wi-Fi gave me roughly 2.5 hours before I had to plug back in. If you expect a game on the go, you'll need to factor in a power outlet or an external battery pack. For someone who mainly plays at a desk, that's fine, but it does limit the laptop's appeal as a truly portable gaming solution. It's more accurate to think of this machine as a desktop replacement that you can move around when needed, rather than a day-to-day travel buddy. Storage-wise, the 2TB SSD is a real strength. Modern games can easily eat up 100 GB each, and the SSD ensures fast load times without the lag you sometimes feel on laptops with smaller, slower drives. I installed 4 large titles, plus a handful of creative apps, and still have plenty of space left. The sheer amount of RAM, 64 GB, means you'll never hit a memory ceiling, even if you run multiple virtual machines or do video editing alongside your gaming sessions. That's a level of future-proofing you rarely see in laptops at this price point. Security features like the fingerprint reader are a nice practical addition.